Hello everybody, we are here today to clean some crab, just give you a few tips, something that I enjoy doing for friends, and I do have a group of friends here tonight. Renee and Dina are here from Blue Pacific Realty and we all work together. Renee is the camera person and the editor and the director all in one. Ron and Jay are here also to aid and assist, or mostly to drink wine and possibly Heineken beer, we don't know. What I'd like to do is to give you an idea of the optional tools that you might want to use. Now the first one is nice background music, preferably rock and roll, no opera, no classical music, because that just doesn't cut it for me. The kitchen belongs to rock and roll as far as I'm concerned. Now the other thing that is an option is a nice craft beer from Oregon. Now this one's from Portland, so I don't think it's quite as good as Lawnmower Lager from Ashland. That's my favorite. It's just a wonderful beer. So before we get started, I'll pop that open and we'll go from there. Now, the main star of the event is a nice crab that is less than 24 hours out of the water. I bought this particular crab down at Bounders. Leslie and Bill are just wonderful people, but Pacific Ocean Harvesters also have great fresh crab, and go there and see Russ. He's a great guy. Now you need a cutting board. A cutting board is just aids and assists. Doesn't have to be one like this, but anything wood is much better. Just helps the process, and I'll show you that in a bit. This may be the second most important tool. Sharp nose kitchen snips, and I'll show you why it's so important as we get going. Less important, a small hammer. You'll get to see that in a little bit. And before we forget the most important part of the whole process, a crab claw. That's all you need. And I'll put it on a plate. It'll be a beautiful presentation when I'm done. The first thing I do is I break the legs off, put the claws over here because I handle them separate at the end, and then we leave the body of the crab for last. So what I'm going to do is I like to put all three of these sections separately, and I save the crab claws just in case one of them gets a little soft. I doubt that'll happen this time because the crab is so fresh. And you'll see in a minute why I'm separating all these behind. So we're separating all of these little pieces out, and there's method to the madness. I'll show you that in a moment, because the first thing we're going to work on is the section right here. And what we're going to do is I'm going to put the plate up so it can be shown. I'm going to use the snips first and cut that section off. And you can break that off with your hand. And the reason I don't is because the snips work real well. You don't lose any of the crab meat. Speeds things up and saves my hands. Okay, there we are. Now the next thing I do, if you notice, there's a membrane right here. You're going to slip your snips right under that, and you're going to cut, oops, you're not going to do that. You're going to cut all the way to the end. And that's important because that allows you to split the crab leg open and get the leg out whole. The smaller legs are a little more touchy than the bigger ones, less forgiving, because if you go too deep into the crab leg itself, what happens is you damage the leg meat just enough so that sometimes it doesn't come out whole, and it kind of is a shame to do that. So take your fingers and you're going to split like this. Then we have our most important tool. Most of the time, the crab leg will come out by gravity. And that's the first one. That's a small one. Now we're going to do a big one just for contrast. These crab are running probably about 1 3/4 pounds to 2 pounds. This one I think probably came pretty close to 2. When the crab is this fresh, it comes out beautiful, very easy. The other nice thing is that while you're taking the crab out whole like this, you'll see the legs will go all around the outside, and on the inside we're going to have a nice little mound of crab. crab meat, and it'll be a beautiful presentation, and the folks who aren't too adept at this process will greatly appreciate it. The other thing I like about it is that at least we can have some time talking to each other as opposed to splattering ourselves with crab juices as we're trying to do this. The other thing I like to do, just for presentation, if you notice that the two sides to the crab leg, one side has some color to it, and I like to have that face up, just because it does add a little more contrast. Crab is pretty white all the way around, obviously. I chose this particular china that I have for tonight because it does have some red and gold in it. You eat with your eyes first. It's kind of fun to do that. And it is possible, now this has just turned out better than I thought it would. All these pieces, because again the crab is so fresh, it just separates from the shell very easily. But if you notice on this one, it tore away a little bit. Do a little surgery, just flip it over. Use your crab claw again because it's sticking just a bit. And we'll put it that side down, and you really can't tell. Now the next thing I'm going to do, I hate not getting all the crab out. That's the way it is. And some people say, well, why do you deal with this? And, well, I like to be able to get it all. So what happens, you push it through on this end right here. It dislodges the meat inside this. I call it the knuckle. That's not the name of it, but that's what I call it. It dislodges the meat just enough so it pretty much pops right out. And it adds slightly to the mound that we're going to create. And if you notice, I'm saving the claws for last, because that's when we get to use the hammer. Under normal circumstances, any tool in my hands is very dangerous, but if it's in the kitchen, we're okay. Now we're almost done with these, and when we are, we'll go to the last section.
I like the way you're doing it. It makes a lot of sense.
I could.
Okay, the next section, I just break these apart and again poke. And the little pieces you'll see, that's a nice little piece of crab, but you wouldn't want to lose that. And some of the smaller legs, you don't get anywhere near that much. Just break it in half. Again, because it's so doggone fresh, right out of the water, it's very easy to extract. Thing with crab claws, break them into 3 parts. And we're going to do the snippy just like we did before. This part is exactly the same, nothing has changed. We're going to go through the whole part and we're going to take it apart same way. Now also in this process you will get, it's just going to happen, oh look at that, just fell out. That's all it had to do. You are going to get little pieces, you can't avoid it, little pieces of shell in with crab meat. Apologize to your guests up front, but then on the other hand, it's a lot easier for them. Oh, look at that. It is that beautiful, or what? Wow. Goodness sakes. Now this, again, I call this the knuckle. It isn't. This is the hardest part of the crab to get out whole. So in advance, I'll tell you it may not work, because even if it's snipping it like this, it doesn't always happen. But there's all kinds of, the meat in this part is attached all over the place. And for whatever reason, I think this part of the crab is the juiciest. when it's served cold. It seems to retain more moisture than anything else. See how hard that is to kind of bring out. And then what I do is I keep snipping at it until eventually I get to a point where it's cooperative. It takes a little extra time, but it's kind of fun to do it this way. And maybe one more snip, and we'll see. Oh yeah, you're a little better.
Very nice.
And I double them up like that. Now we get to use the hammer. All I'm doing is just tapping it to break all the way across this part of the crab, and I'll show you in a minute why that's that part of the claw. And we're going to just break this out. Now see, it did not break all the way across. Snips. And back to our trusty, because this should just almost fall out by gravity now.
Nice.
And if you notice right here, this usually stays in the crab.
Oh.
So you pull that out and your guest doesn't get a surprise. Once again, best tool you got going is Mr. Crab himself. I'm sure he doesn't particularly have a vote in it, and if he did, he wouldn't be happy. I try to break away just enough of the crab so that it doesn't hang up on one side or the other. And you got to be careful with this one because, there we go. And once again.
Oh yeah, can slide
Okay.
right out.
Now we're ready for the body of it itself, and this is where the rest of your presentation is going to come in. And what I try to do is just eliminate the stuff we don't need. Try to break this into sections first, right kind of where the legs are, and if you get lucky, it tends to break apart so that the meat from the body comes out in chunks as opposed to bits and pieces and drabs. Now, that doesn't work all the time, but it works most of the time, except for that piece that I'm dealing with right now. And again, we're back to the claw, and you just push the meat down like that. And most of it starts coming out. And if you get a piece like this, again, you're going to push the crab meat back because that's where it connects to where the leg was attached. And for the most part, you get nice white chunks. We are all done. This is a platter presentation with 3 crab, and you can see the mound in the middle really is set off by all the crab legs around it. And this is for Mama Bear, a medium-sized platter, but it's the same type of presentation. And then of course Baby Bear, the one that we just finished, you have right here. And that is also nice. Now if you were having people over and wanted to do an individual crab for each person, I think this would be a great presentation.
Oh, yeah.
So anyway, that's it. Just a few hints. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. Thank you for coming. Wish you the best.